Going. There we go. All right, so you guys are coming to the end of this North American tour. And speaking to Bruce, this is the longest tour he said Big Country has ever been on, period, in their entire career. So how do you gauge the success, whatever that means to you, of this North American tour and what you've accomplished as you come toward the end of it?
Well, it is a tour that the band had to do.
Yeah.
There was a lot of the audience were here who and a lot of never experienced Big Country live, full stop.
Yeah.
Never mind seeing them with Stuart Adamson when Stuart was alive. So if we were going to make a new record, we had to embrace that, the idea of that as a complete form, and that meant touring it, playing it in places, and proving it again, and to live, the band had to come out here and find out what its audience was, and connect the dots again, and bring everyone together, and see if it could have a future beyond this point in time. And I think it's proved to a lot of people that the band is committed to the music. It's not just a nostalgia act, and it's been good for everyone concerned. I think, for the history of the band, it's freshened that up, and it's given it a context that it might never have had before. It's made it come alive again, and it's created a future for the band.
That's great. And this is not really a question, more of a comment, but as a longtime fan myself, I think I can speak for a lot when we say how much we appreciate what you've done, because when Stuart passed away, and the reasons behind it, and the way he passed away, it was such a dark cloud over the music of the band.
Absolutely.
And what you've done, really, and what the other guys have done, is kind of brought the joy back to that music.
That's it. Well, to me, whenever I saw Big Country, it was uplifting. That was what the main thing I got from it was, you felt enthused about life when you saw the band. Stuart's commitment and passion was evident in everything he did, in his guitar playing, the way he sang, songs he wrote, and you can see the legacy of that, because people are still passionate about the band. Most bands who haven't played for 20 years would be completely forgotten about. Mm-hmm. But Big Country is different. There's people who still have hung in there with hope that something may happen. And even though, in all that time from 93 to 2013, the most, incredibly tragic event happened, but still never deterred the audience from hoping they were going to still see something from Big Country.
Right.
Because I think the fans know that Big Country is the sum of the parts. It wasn't just all Stuart Adamson, I'm in that position in The Alarm. People see me singing the songs, I write everything and create everything. That's not always true. It's a team effort. And more so than, what was interesting for me with Big Country was, it was a team effort. I could see that everyone contributed to the music, and for me that's very different, because with The Alarm I do write the songs, create all the lyrics, and I come in to play a song to the band that's very fully formed.
Right.
Whereas in Big Country, all you've got is the seed. There's no tree.
Right.
You've just got the idea,
the musical bits, and
it just fleshes out from there. And Stuart was given a great platform to be the person we all loved as a musician and an artist. He had a great springboard to dive into his lyrics from, because the music was created with the whole team, and Bruce and Mark and Tony had a massive part to play in the evolution of the band's music.
Yeah.
And then Stuart would take it away and hear the lyrics and the melody, and he would hear those without a guitar in his hand, as he was listening to a soundtrack, and that's something I'm proud of, that we kept that part of Big Country intact. I think, because I think that was very important.
Was that intentional, as you said about to write the Journey album, that you wanted to keep that?
Very much so. Okay. Yeah, very much so.
Because it really the thing that really surprised me so much about the Journey is, it's a fantastic album, but it has the feel of Big Country.
Yeah.
And I was certainly hoping for that, but didn't know exactly what to expect. But I think 90% of the fans will tell you that feeling really comes through. Yeah. So whatever you did was...
Well, it was just, I just felt it needed to stem from Bruce and Mark as much as possible, and Tony as well, because Tony was involved in the writing in the initial stages as well. And it really, there was no point in me bringing a Mike Peters song to the table, because that would just sound like Big Country plays The Alarm.
Right.
And that wouldn't be true to what we were trying to achieve and what needed to be done. And so I really stayed out of the creative process until I was needed, until, it was like that just as that person that to receive the lyrics in the same way Stuart would have received them. The music is always suggestive and evocative of words. There's a lot of instrumental in Big Country. When you go back to The Crossing, I remember the first time I ever listened to it, and things like Porroh Man and Lost Patrol came to the fore for me. And they were songs almost without lyrics. There was a long, long time.
Yes.
Even when you hear chants, there's a long, long passages with no lyrics.
Right.
And those passages are suggestive of words and images in themselves. And as a fan of Big Country, I just had to stay out of the process till there was enough going on to suggest some lyrics and vocal melodies, and then I felt that I could maybe contribute slightly earlier than Stuart would have done with the lyrics and the melodies, because he was still involved playing guitar all the time,
right.
and all their music came up as instrumentals.
Right.
Whereas I could hear a half instrumental and then get involved because I didn't have to guide the guitars or work in harmony like Stuart would be working in harmony with Bruce. But that was all taken care of by Jamie and Bruce.
Right.
So I could just come in and hear vocal melodies and lines. And in the initial lyrics, with particularly The Journey, I actually sat down with Mark and Tony and virtually interviewed them to get the lyrics out of them.
Wow.
And basically I wanted to capture their feelings. And that's where the ideas of there's no disgrace or guilt or shame in having faith that you can live again. And those kind of lines were pulled out from them. In fact, I think it was Tony who actually said, sometimes you've got to make the journey. And I went, that's the song title.
Really? Wow.
So, and that was what the band was going through. And I remember sitting at the table outside the studio with Mark and going through the lyrics and the arms to hold you right by your side. And that's how he saw it, that Stuart was with him on the journey.
Wow, that's great. It's fantastic. It seems to me, when I look back at the journey that you guys have had since you joined Big Country as an official member, you had to get through that phase where you played live and dealt with the whole whatever you had to deal with the new lineup playing live, and then you made the album. Have you gotten to the point now where you feel like this is your band, and you can maybe move away a little bit from the Stuart portion?
I don't know. I can't. I don't know if I can resolve that one yet.
Yeah.
It still feels like Stuart's band to me.
Yeah.
And I think it always will be, and always should be. Really, I don't think it should become Mike Peters' band. Mike Peters' band is the Alarm.
Right.
That's what I like about working in Big Country. It's not self-centered around myself and my life, and which the Alarm is. And I enjoy it for that reason. It's the responsibility to other people's lives in Big Country, and the writing has to reflect other people's lives. The history of the band, the story of the band, has to come into play. And I'm lucky that I was a fan of the band and knew them well.
Yeah,
and I could translate that down into words that resonated with the audience and made the connections back through the albums to earlier references. And and
they're definitely throughout the album, which is great.
There's a lot there, exactly, and I think that was important. I think it was important to touch the fans in that way, that they knew that there was somebody at the helm who was thinking of them as well, and their relationship with Big Country, because without the audience, a band is nothing. It has to have a reason to live.
Right.
It can exist in a garage for fun, but Big Country has touched a lot of people and has connections all around the world, and made through the music and the lyrics, and people have had them in important occasions in their life. And so I felt very strongly that the band needed to make a record that was built on all those foundations that everyone recognises are Big Country.
Yeah, fantastic. Are you okay with time, by the
Sure.
way? Okay, if you want, you need me to stop?
No, it's okay.
You have a great radio voice.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, good.
My tapping isn't distracting you.
No, not at all. You're fine. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Free TY while it's still hot.
Okay, thank you, sir. Well, let me ask you about when I spoke to you in Leesburg briefly. You mentioned the possibility of a Steeltown anniversary thing. What's the status of that? That's really got a lot of fans excited about.
Well, I think that's something that's got to happen. It's a natural step in the band's evolution.
Yeah.
There's the whole journey tour has been about looking forward, but bands with history have to look back as well. That's where sometimes you find the next paths in the future is going back. I think one of the things that made the journey the record it was is that we'd spent the previous months totally immersed in the Crossing, playing it night after night, and looking at that record and looking at the lyrical connections in that and being able to sing them with conviction every night. It embeds you into a sort of mindset.
Yeah.
And so I think the next phase for the band has to be, as well as the fans, we have to celebrate the Steeltown. That's the next record in the history of the band. I think we can go back to it. As a fan of that record, I think I'm from somebody who's a fan who's also got a line into the inner circle, if you like.
Right.
There was a lot of things went wrong with that record.
Yes.
And so it's nice to be able to put those right. So I was able to sort of broker some conversations with Universal, with the band through the box set sessions.
How fantastic.
And Steeltown was originally going to be scheduled to be reissued in January. But I said, look, well, the band are going to tour. We want to embrace Steeltown and revisit that record. So
it's great.
There's been some talk about going back to revisit the album, remix it, because it was a very murky record. Members of the band went there at certain times, and Steve Lillywhite wasn't going through his best period, which I think he'll openly admit.
Yes.
I think the success of his career had taken its toll on him.
Yeah.
And his ears. And I think that's one of those records everyone would like to go back to, not just as fans to hear it again, but the band need to go back to the record because it's probably a greater record than it actually is.
Yeah.
I think the songs are great on it.
Yeah.
It just didn't have room enough to breathe, I think, in some ways, because of the darkness of the mix.
Yeah.
And it was slightly got out of control.
Yeah.
So to bring some elements of that.
Yeah.
The bit because I think a little bit of revision is a good thing here. Allow Big Country the benefit of hindsight to present Stuart's voice in a great way on that record. It would be a good thing. Strip some of it out, which probably horrifies some of the fans. But
that would be very interesting to hear.
It's going to be interesting to be able to play it live because some of it is challenging. Some of it didn't get played that much by Big Country in its original era. I think there were so many overdubs on the record that it became difficult for them to try and translate it onto the stage. But having heard somebody playing Flame of the West on acoustic guitar on this tour, maybe that there's a way of stripping it back to the song and then rebuilding the songs.
I think that would be the perfect approach. Yeah,
and allowing it to stand up in a modern context because lyrically it still carries a lot of weight. That record, and to set it free from its original 1980s settings, and allow the songs to breathe again. I think we can bring a fresh outlook to the record, which again will allow us to breathe as a band and not be choked in the history either. It's important that we learn from Steeltown, not just go back there and represent it, but re-envisage it a little bit, freshening it up, make people realise what a great record it was. Not that they don't know, but to be able to play it live in a modern context again it'll be exciting. It's a big challenge.
Oh yes,
big challenge.
It's almost like otherworldly music on that album in a sense. It's I've never heard it's sort of like a guitar orchestra at times.
There's a lot going on. I know that Bruce confided me that Stuart had left the sessions for a couple of weeks because he had to go back to Scotland, and it was just Bruce and the engineers, and they just kept piling on more guitars and stuff because they were learning there were slide guitars in there, and the first time they started bending notes and they were experimenting, and everything stayed in the mix because there was a certain psychosis going on around the record, and
Right.
and there was a rush to get it out, and I don't think, and it was being recorded in Sweden, I
Yeah,
think.
ABBA's
studio, yeah.
Yeah.
So there was an element of Tony wasn't there for a while, and so it was made under duress in a weird sort of way.
Yeah.
And so it'd be nice. I think Bruce and Mark are really keen to go back to that record and remix it basically from the ground up, which I think would be great, because the original album will always stand.
Sure. You always have it.
So why not go back to it and clean up all the paintwork and restore it and let it live again in
say whoever
a modern context.
Whatever engineer pulls out that master tape and starts going through that, oh boy, that's going to be quite a job.
Need a 300 channel desk, I think.
Yeah, no. Oh, just a couple more for you.
Yeah.
And I'll be through. You mentioned the lyrics of Stuart, and you're known for your lyrics as well. And I'm wondering, looking back on, I know what the song "In a Big Country" means to you. I've seen the documentary, and it's great what that particular song means to you. Are there any other lyrics of Stuart now that you've taken on the back catalog that really have stood out to you, that just kind of, made you appreciate him more? Or
Well, I like a lot of the stuff on Buffalo Skinners as a great record, and Driving to Damascus I think was a very revealing record.
Yeah.
And I love Never Take Your Place, and I just see Stuart in all of it.
Yeah.
And the man I loved is present in those lyrics.
Yeah.
And like you say, that the one act of his life that took him away from us, all of us, overshadowed all of that. So it's great to let the lyrics live again through song. I'm a massive fan of Fragile Thing. I think that's, part of it is it's sort of, I think of John Lennon in these modern times, and you see things going on. What would he have said about that? And that's sort of what I hear from the lyrics. When I look back at Stuart's lyric catalogue, is I miss what the commentary would have given to today's events.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's sort of the what
He seemed to be very prescient in some of his lyrics as far as what's happening.
I think that's why the relationship is still intact for a lot of the big country artists, because the lyrics have not dated 1 second.
Yeah.
They do not belong to the times they were written in. They're timeless, and they've got a lot of weight and dignity in them. And that was always the person I saw in Stuart when I met him. He was very dignified. He was very unselfish. When he was talking to me about carrying on in big country on the Driving to Damascus tour, it was because he wasn't being selfish at all. And again, it is his band. He just saw it as being, well, his role in the band was changing, and he felt that he confided in me that he felt he'd almost forced the band to come to Nashville to work on Driving to Damascus, and that they still wanted to make classic big country sounding records with the natural influences that are always in the music. And Stuart was moving away from that. He was getting into B-bender kind of guitars and playing in a country style.
Right.
And he didn't want to drag the band down that path. So he wanted to set them free and say, look, just get another singer and carry on. I'm sure it would all be great and the fans would embrace it and everything like that. But personally, I just thought he was going through a whole midlife crisis at that time.
Right.
And that's how I saw it. So we didn't take it much further than conversations, but I didn't realise how serious Stuart was about it. But again, he was unselfish in that position, and that's why I think he would have embraced what the big country does today. Is he would have been pleased that Bruce and Mark had carried on and made decisions that were respectful to the band's history and hadn't given up and let the weight of the history crowd them out of an opportunity to play again for the future with the band that they were part of and gave so much to, and they've got every right to continue, and Stuart would have recognised that.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I think definitely. Okay, final one for you, Mike. You had a really touching blog post a while back about the show in Denver where you lost your boys, and I think that really touched a lot of big country fans, especially because of some of the things you said about feeling like you had to sing Stuart's words. And a lot of people told me, if I got the chance to talk to you, to express to you that they feel like you got to give yourself a break from that. That I think people really are so appreciative of the way that you've handled so graciously stepping into this. And that's why I asked before, do you feel like you get to the point where you say this is your band? Yeah. Not necessarily to minimize what Stuart has done, but just, to move forward with whatever you want to say, and which I think you've done with the journey.
I wouldn't want it to be my band. That would be wrong. And I hope it never gets to that. I think that would be the wrong mindset to have.
Yeah. And I don't mean to say that as if
I think it's just
yours, but
it's an unusual role to be in, because I'm the singer, and people always look to singers for leadership. There's an ego that goes with the lead singer that if it's not there, fans miss it, because it sort of pulls things together, and you become the conduit for the ideas. A lot of the ideas roll through, but
sure.
But I never saw Big Country as being a singer's band. I always saw him as being a guitarist band.
Definitely.
And I always think of Stuart as a guitarist first. As good a voice as he had, as great a singer as he was, I still think of him as a guitarist first.
I think most would.
And I think that the band has to be guitar driven, and if it became songwriter led, which almost it did, or Big Country did become songwriter band. The Driving Damascus was very song driven. It wasn't a guitar driven band by that point. And I think somewhere along the line, an identity crisis evolved. I can sort of understand it, because Stuart was so tied to being the cliche of the bagpipe guitar guy, the drone strings, and because he was so great at that, and he was so adept at the guitar, why repeat himself? So he's probably spent most of his career while he was alive trying to get away from the sound of Big Country.
Right.
But
seemed that way.
From my point of view, I was able to embrace it. So to me, it is. I forgot what to say, but yeah, I think it is important to embrace the guitar element of the band, let that breathe, and if it became songwritery, I think that'd be time to step back from it all, because then you've got it. Ultimately, it has to be Bruce and Mark's band,
right?
And they have to take the lead and make the final decisions. Otherwise, I think it would lose some of the honesty that's there. It's a very honest band at the moment right now, dealing with all the emotions, not just what happened to Stuart, but what happened to Bruce and Mark and the people left behind and the family and everything like that. That all comes to the fore, and the band has to be an outlet for those emotions. And okay, I can be the conduit, but I don't think I can be the full-on instigator of everything.
Sure.
So it's important that it rolls the way it's rolling.
That's great. And clearly it's not James Brown, it's Mike Peters, who is the hardest working man in show business. So I did have one final one, real quick one for you, that my co-host Svein from Norway wanted me to ask you. What do you do for a holiday, and do you even take a holiday ever?
I think Jules should answer that.
Because it really is mind-blowing.
Talking vacations.
We were talking vacations, yeah.
That's it.
I'm obviously...
Last one long vacation.
Yeah.
Well, they say if you do what you love, then you're never working.
That's
so
it.
Clearly, that's what you're doing.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a family because I run alarm.com, and we're just, everything you do is either Live Strand to music. So we're sort of here vacationing.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's very.
I've also
a chance to see that.
It's great to see them. They're beautiful kids.
We've always seen this as a hobby. This is our hobby, and so long may it continue. And I live my life through the music. It's given me some great opportunities in life, and the charity that I say that's growing and growing. That's becoming a huge part of our life. But I owe my life to that, really. Yeah. So it's all part of the family, and we've got some great friends, and life's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's never dull, put it that way.
That's for sure.
And I'm lucky to have Jules and my boys. They're the kids helping out with the gear every night, and they're immersed as immersed in it as I am, and we're very lucky to have a rounded life, and we're Jules and I are celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary next Tuesday. Playing a gig with Big Country.
Oh, wow.
How romantic is that?
Romantic.
That's the most fitting place, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So, well, thank you so
Good.
much.
But we've been, I say, I've been grateful for all the support I've had from the Big Country audience. It's been fantastic. I felt that the first night I stepped out to sing with a band in Glasgow at the ABC. We were all there. And I felt when I walked out that the audience were willing it to happen as much as I was. And there wasn't any negativity because what's the worst thing that could happen? It was, well, we tried,
Right,
that's ultimately what everyone wanted to do. And I think the whole thing has gone on way beyond what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
But we really did dare to dream this all up again.
Yeah, definitely.
And
it's amazing.
And it's been absolute. Who would have thought Big Country would be playing in Sellersville, in Pennsylvania again after all this, after everything that's happened. It's a great human story of overcoming incredible obstacles.
It really is.
And having positive frame of mind. Of course, there's people. I'm aware there's people who don't want this to be what it is, and I can understand that. I don't understand people want to just absolutely bring it down.
Yeah.
I would say it's like, well, walk away. There's a great quote from Mark about in the press release about the forthcoming British tour. Mark says that the past is safe. The memories are all safe. They're never going to change. They are what they are. But it's time for some new memories and new dreams. That's for Big Country, and I think to me that says it all. And we have it here and there, and you see people trying to bring it down. I almost want to say to them, look, just walk away, forget it.
I know exactly.
You can still have what you had. That's never going to change. But everyone who wants to stand up and move on, let them do it. What harm? We're not causing harm in the world.
Time.
We're trying to heal wounds, not create wounds.
I often see that as sort of a misdirected, maybe malformed love of something. That's
Absolutely,
kind of
I agree. And there's a lot of passion that goes into that.
Yeah.
But my life is defined by being positive and taking a step forward rather than a step back.
Well, the great majority are definitely with you, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I'm grateful for their support because we've been able to do this together. It's been a shared experience. Talking with people about Stuart has informed me about him. I've learned things I didn't know that have informed the lyrics. And it's all come out of this family coming together to try and stay together.
Yeah.
And rather than let something dissipate, because you have to have new input. When families suffer loss, there's that great saying when one door closes, another one opens. Right. And for every person that leaves the planet, a new baby's born, and we have to move on with that in mind. That's the only way. That's what Stuart would have wanted. That's why, I always saw what he did as an act of sacrifice, and to set people free, and the ones he loved, he wanted to set them free from his own pain, and that's how I see it, and that's what gives me the strength to carry on with Big Country.
Thank you so much. Sure, I so appreciate your time.
Cheers, Tom.
You too. Could I ask one thing really quick?
Of course.
This is a show ID.
Okay.
If you could just say, this is Mike Peters, you're listening to the Great Divide podcast.
Yes, okay.
Anytime you're ready.
Hi, this is Mike Peters from Big Country. You're listening to the Great Divide podcast.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Did you get one with Mike?